5 new trim levels, a new engine, new exterior, new interior, a ton of new features. The all-new 2023 Chevrolet Colorado has been released. I have all the details, including when I'm going to start building this truck as well. So with that, let's get going. All right, as usual, when Chevy or General Motors releases anything, especially truck related, of course, I am excited or ecstatic, I guess you could say. No, I haven't had a Red Bull or a Monster or a Rockstar today. I'm actually drinking some Diet Canada Dry ginger ale. So needless to say, my excitement is actually just excitement. I am not on anything, as many people like to think, because I talk so fast and I get so loud about this. But listen, there's so many new and exciting and cool things to talk about when it comes to this new 2023 Chevrolet Colorado. And that's kind of what I want to do today in today's video. I'm going to be doing more videos coming up. We're going to delve deeper into certain models and trim levels and things like that. But today, because there's so much new stuff, I want to just kind of cover the basis of all the new things so you know how it differs from the current model, especially if you're on the fence and you maybe see a 2022 that you'd still like to get your hands on, as opposed to getting into the new 2023. First and foremost, of course, one of the most massive changes comes to the engine, and we're going to talk about that here in a second. But let's go down the list of some of the things. First of all, as I said at the top of the video, there's going to be 5 different trim levels of this truck this year. And let's count them down. There's going to be the WT, we're going to have an LT, we're going to have the Z71, or the Z71, pardon me for my American friends. We're going to have the Trail Boss, which is an all-new model for this year. And then we're also going to have the ZR2, of course. That's got to be one of their most popular selling models, obviously, so far. And let's start off by talking about the awesome new looks to this Colorado. I mean, it definitely has a more aggressive front end to it. I mean, just overall, the truck is completely different looking. We're also going to actually finally see some LED lighting finally in the Colorado platform in the way of the Z71 and ZR2 chassis trucks. So again, you know, I like the looks of the front end. I think they did a great job. They definitely could have went the wrong way. I know looks are very particular, very important part of me for many of us when it comes to these trucks, and I think they hit it out of the park with this one. There's nothing that I can really complain about in terms of looks of this, and that makes me happy to see, of course. Now, we are going to see 3 unique chassis stances for these trucks. I think that's a great idea done by Chevrolet because, of course, if you're having a ZR2 or a ZR2 and you have a WT, you're going to be using those for completely different aspects, I'm pretty sure. Or, you know, an LT if you're just cruising down your main street as opposed, and, you know, hauling the old thing or putting the other thing in the back, as opposed to going hardcore off-roading, pardon me, with the ZR2. So we're going to see some differences there. Not to mention the truck in and of itself is now 3.1 inches longer, has a 3.1 inch longer wheelbase, pardon me, is 2.3 inches wider, but it does have a shorter overhang on this truck, and there is a reason for that, which we're going to talk about here in a second. But of course, the shorter overhang does a couple things. Number one, looks more aggressive, I think anyways. It allows you to see down in front a little bit better. Not to mention, it improves the approach angle as well. So that's all going to help in terms of having that shorter overhang. Now, why are we having a shorter overhang? Well, let's switch over and talk about the engine. We're going to get to the interior here in a second and some more of the new features I'm excited about, but I know a lot of you are watching because you want to know about the new and only engine. Now, there's going to be one engine, but there's going to be 3 different variants of this particular engine. So yes, gone are the naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, gone is the 3.6 liter V6, and gone is the 2.8 liter Duramax, and all is being replaced with the all new, at least all new for this chassis, this type of truck, mid-size truck, is a 2.7 liter 4-cylinder turbo. Hear me out, hear me out. There's some exciting things to share with this. Now, as I mentioned, there's going to be 3 different variations or outputs of this truck. So your base truck, which is going to be your WT and your LT, the standard engine, that's going to be the 2.7 liter inline 4-cylinder. Now, what it's going to do is going to produce 237 horsepower and 259 foot-pound of torque, and it's going to allow you to pull 3,500 pounds. Now, again, keep in mind, this is the base engine, base trim level, base, all right? That, again, is coming standard on the WT and the LT. Now, the next one up from that is what they call the 2.7 liter Turbo Plus. Hear this out. 310 horsepower and 390 foot-pound of torque. That's more horsepower and more torque than the outgoing 2.8 and the 3.6 liter V6 that we've all become used to. And also hear this, largest in class towing, I think now, 7,700 pounds of towing with this 2.7 liter. Now, keep in mind, it is standard on the Z71 and Trail Boss, or Z71. is going to be an option for the WT and the LT. So again, if you do get a WT or you do get an LT, you can upgrade to this engine if you want to. And then coming standard in the ZR2, the ZR2 is a 2.7 liter high output, which is also going to produce 310 horsepower, but it's going to have 430 foot-pound of torque. That is, we're talking 6.2 and 3 liter Duramax diesel territory in terms of that torque, which is incredible. Now, the ZR2, by the way, is only going to be able to pull 6,000 pounds because, again, it adds extra weight, different suspension, and so on. But that is the engine. Now, it's going to be mated to the 8-speed transmission. And they've done basically what they've done and what we hoped and we assumed. The upgrades that they've done with the 2.7 liter that they did with the 1500, we're also seeing in the way of this, where they basically made the crank is 30% stiffer than it was in the outgoing 2.7 that we had in the past. Fully forged bottom end, and they're using some diesel, some things they use in diesel engines in order to create more longevity and everything else in the motor. So the 2.7 liter, I know a lot of you have had some qualms about, because I've talked about this in the past. I told you this is what was coming. That was what all the rumors, that's what all the talk was about, that there was only going to be one engine option, but at least we have some great numbers behind it, and I think it's going to perform super well in this mid-size truck chassis. And before I go too far, you want to know another really cool part that I love about this truck that they did that some of you are going to appreciate, especially if you were, had a 1500 series truck, maybe you got some wheels lying around. Guess what? They're actually going to be using the full-size 1500 series bolt pattern. Yes, the 6x5.5 bolt pattern that we see currently on all of our 1500 series trucks is now being adopted to the Colorado, and I'm sure it's going to come on the Canyon, the GMC Canyon, when they release that. So that's exciting news, because now we can get a lot more wheel options than we had in the past, and maybe again, like you've got some winter wheels kicking around from your full size trucks in the past, or whatever it is. But again, that's a new change coming that I know for some of you don't care about, but I'm pretty excited about that. All right, let's talk about the interior, because there's some definite changes and some awesome new interior options that we didn't have in the past. And standard, actually, I should say, not even necessarily options. So in the spy photos that we had in the past, it looked as though it's going to adopt a very similar screen to what we're seeing in our current 1500 series, that new upgrade. It's not quite as large. We are talking about an 11.3 inch color touchscreen, which is definitely larger than the 8-inch touchscreen in the past, obviously by 3.3 inches. So we have a definite difference there. And then built in there is the new Google built-in. I'm not going to really speak to that. I'm not 100% a fan of that yet. I got to get used to it, I think. That means that all these trucks are going to have navigation built in, but keep in mind, again, if you want to use a built-in navigation from the Google built-in, you do need an OnStar subscription with data in order for that to work. But keep in mind, and don't get too worried, you still are going to have the ability to have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I didn't really read, but I'm assuming it's wireless as we move forward in this technology. And then shifting over in front of the driver, we're now going to have an 8-inch fully programmable digital screen in front of the driver, very much like, again, what we're seeing in the full-size half-ton trucks in the new refresh 2022s, but again, we're going to have it on a smaller scale. But of course, it has to be. It's a smaller interior. If we have 13.4 inches, it's going to go all the way across to the other side of the truck almost. Again, 11.3 in the middle. It's going to be 8 inches of screen in front of the driver, where opposed to, I think it's 12.3 inches in the full-size truck. But again, we're talking about a smaller truck, obviously. And some other differences I'm excited about, finally, is the push-button start. We're finally getting that. The one thing I couldn't really look and find out, I got to look at deeper at some pictures, and again, I'll report this when I find it out, but I know one of the biggest issues I had, which is, again, a little thing but annoyed me, was the power seat option. Now, we had power seats, but we didn't have the power recline, which I always thought was a little bit silly, so I couldn't really grasp any pictures and see if that's changed. Fingers crossed it is. But another big one, something we've never had in a Colorado or a Canyon in the past, we have a sunroof in this one now. So finally, we have a sunroof in our mid-size truck, which I know a lot of you have been asking about, wondering about. Yes, there is going to be a sunroof in the interior of this truck. And then, of course, all the layout is different. Actually, one of the things, the gear shifter is actually shifted over more towards the passenger side, which again, on a smaller truck, it's not going to be hard to reach, so I think that's an okay change. But again, just the appearance and the looks, of course, are different in terms of that interior. There's going to be a whole bunch more of enhanced safety features. It's going to come standard with things like a telebeam. You're going to have, rear cross traffic alert and so on, but there's going to be more safety features than we can ever get in the past, as well as, again, 100% more standard safety features than we ever had in the past in the Colorado for 2023. And by the way, in terms of the interior, there's actually going to be 3 different, what they call aesthetics in terms of the interior. And let me just explain what that means is, in the WT and the Trail Boss, the cabin provides, and this is what Chevy is basically saying, cabin provides a rugged aesthetic that is ready for work and play. The LT is going to have a different interior. It says the LT is, the interior features bright silver accents, soft wrap trim, and a premium wrapped steering wheel. And then when we get up to the Z71 or Z71, it's a sportier ambiance. Jet black and red accents convey the motif with trim unique cloth leatherette seating surfaces. So, 3 different interior trim levels to go along with all these new interior changes. Also, sticking with the interior, I guess we're gonna have separate climate control for the driver passenger, not to mention we're gonna have separate climate control options for the rear passenger as well. And another big thing, I don't know if this is interior or exterior, but while we're in the interior, we'll talk about it. We're gonna have some new drive modes this year. In fact, there's gonna be 4 new drive modes. You can have normal, 5 if I can count, normal, tow haul mode, off-road, terrain, and Baja. So there's gonna be 4 new modes that way. And maybe I should interrupt halfway through this here, or partway through this, or however far I am through this, and talk about the fact that we are going to be seeing these trucks being built, my understanding is January, or at the very least, the very start of 2023 in Wentzville, Missouri. So American-made trucks. We're going to see these being started to be built at the start of the year. So we should start seeing them, I would guess, late, early spring, I should say, in terms of the availability actually at dealers where you can actually get these things and drive them. And actually, I've changed my mind. Let's go back one more second and talk about the 11.4-inch color touchscreen, because there is an app that can be built in there depending on some of them, depending on the model, that allows you to monitor real-time off-road performance. There's an app in there, and it gives you. There's basically 3 different variations of this of this app that are giving information. One's called Overland, which gives you the altitude and GPS guidance. One's called Terrain, which gives you the pitch, roll, and tire pressure, and one's called Baja, which gives you the G-force, the wheel slip indicator, and the transfer case information on the transfer case. So kind of cool. There's up to 10 camera views coming this year as well, including, and not limited to, there's some underbody cameras that are going to be available on the Z71, Z71, and the ZR2 models as options as well. And how about one more little interior feature that I'm actually excited about? I get excited about the silliest little things, obviously, is the new seatbelt option. If you get into the Z71, ZR2 trim level, you have the option to actually get yellow or red seatbelt options, a la Corvette, I guess you would say. So again, little touches, but I think it would look really cool depending on the color of truck you have. And then as far as the back, in terms of the box itself, we're going to have, I think it's 8 plus ability up to 9. I think we're going to have close to 17 different optional tie-down areas. So some more, some more places to put 2x4s and so on. So we have some more ability for storage in the back. The coolest part about this, though, is a new tailgate that we've got. I'm going to talk about a couple things here. First and foremost, I didn't see the ability or the addition of a multi-matic, or probably multi-pro or multi-flex, I guess it would be in this Chevy tailgate, which I kind of find is a little bit weird, but we do have a new lockable storage tailgate, which is pretty awesome. Basically what they're saying is it's 45 inches wide by 4 inches deep. And you can lock that up. So I think that's kind of a cool storage area. It's kind of tucked out of the way, but it's kind of nice if you want to throw the odd thing back there, an axe, a fishing rod, I don't know, some booster cables, whatever it is, some tools nice and out of the way. And they also have a midway position lock on this, which holds up to 500 pounds. So that's another cool feature. So I guess if you don't have the multi-flex tailgate, we have the ability to have the tailgate have partway up. And maybe it's not necessary to have a multi-flex tailgate on the smaller mid-sized truck, but either way, still some exciting news in terms of the tailgate and some new rear storage. Not to mention, we also have the ability for the power outlet in the back, which I don't believe we really had in the past Colorados either. Oh, and by the way, before I forget, when we're talking about the tailgate, it says there's a tailgate audio option. I'll have to look and see if I can find pictures or video. If I do, I'll obviously add it to this, but they're saying tailgate audio option is also something that's going to be available for 2023 as well. All right, so we've talked about some of the new features. Let's talk about the new ZR2. Of course, we are familiar with the ZR2 in the past. And again, it's been one of the, or ZR2, depending on who's watching this right now, Canadian or American. We were familiar with this truck because, again, it's been one of the most popular Colorados that's ever been made. But let's talk about what the new one is going to have in terms of features. And I've got a list of different things here. So first and foremost, standard ZR2 equipment and ZR2. So standard equipment is going to be a spray and bed liner. Yeah, okay. Newly designed high clearance front fascia, including cutout corners and the Chevrolet flow tie, LED lighting, as I talked about earlier in the video. modified front and rear bumpers for better approach and departure angles and off-road obstacle clearance. And I'm going to talk about, by the way, the ground clearance in comparison from all the way from the WT to the ZR2 or ZR2 in a minute. So just stay tuned for that. I'll talk about how the ground clearances compare. Now, what is new though, and I'm excited about, is 17-inch wheels, but 33-inch diameter mud terrain tires, segment exclusive, of course, Multimatic DSSV piggyback suspension. The suspension is amazing. I really love it actually on the new full-size trucks as well, the AT4X and the ZR2. Special cast iron control arms, selectable front and rear electronic differentials, of course, the locking front and rear differentials. That is synonymous with the ZR2, and I'm glad they kept it. I was reading earlier and I thought maybe they missed it, but maybe they excluded it for whatever reason, but it is there. Multimatic DSSV, as I mentioned. Modified rear axle with a 3.42-inch ratio, aluminum skid plate to protect the radiator and engine oil pan and transfer case shield, rocker panel protection as well. Now, that's the regular ZR2. Now, there's going to be a little bit of an upper model of the ZR2 or the ZR2, which is going to be called the Desert Boss. And it has all those things, obviously, I just listed, amongst some other things, and I'll tell you what those are. First and foremost, they're saying it's going to come with the 17-inch beadlock capable wheels, off-road bumper and front fascia, so it's going to have a different bumper out there in the front as well. Sports bar with sail panel, roof-mounted light bar, underbody camera is going to be a standard feature in that one. It's an option though, so keep in mind it is an option in the normal ZR2. And then the unique Desert Boss decals and black emblems that will signify as you're driving down the street or off-road that it is the Desert Boss, right? Now, in the ZR2 or ZR2 chassis, we're definitely getting more ground clearance than we had in the past. Now, this is going to also have something that's very important to note, is a different suspension lift than what we had in the past. And the reason for that is because we have the all-new Trail Boss out there. Now, the Trail Boss is going to be very much like the ZR2 in some fashions. It's not going to have the Multimatic DSSV. It's not going to have a lot of those things I just listed, but it is going to have the wider front end that we're seeing on the ZR2 or the ZR2. So the Trail Boss is going to have that. Now, the Trail Boss, like its full-size partners or full-size big brother, whatever you want to call it, in the Silverado, it's going to have a 2-inch suspension lift, whereas the ZR2 or the ZR2, doesn't matter if you get the Desert Boss or the regular, it's going to have a 3-inch lift. And all of that matters because we are going to have different ground clearances. Not to mention, of course, the new ZR2 is going to have the best approach angle that we've ever had, not to mention departure angle, all that kind of stuff, just by the way it's designed with the shoulder overhang and all that kind of stuff. But I have the information here in regards to the actual ground clearances. Now, if we started the LT and WT, which I don't really think is a real huge concern about ground clearance, but it's still a respectable 7.9 inches. You go to the Z71 or the Z71, it's 8.9 inches. Then you bump up to the Trail Boss, it's 9.5 inches, and then it's 10.7 inches of overall ground clearance in the ZR2 chassis. So many new features. I love the new trim levels. I love the new looks of this truck. There's so much more I need to talk about, but I want to keep this video just the overview of everything that is new and has changed and is coming our way. Stay tuned. I'm going to be doing more videos that talk about this in more in depth, the trim levels more in depth, and just more about these Colorados. I'm so excited. And also stay tuned because I know the GMC Canyon is around the corner as well. And of course, I'll be bringing that to you also. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, everybody. Till next time.